Theories of Erikson, Piaget and Kohlberg. Hello students, today we are going to study the theories put forth by Erikson, Piaget and Kohlberg. All three theories are stage theories of development and address some very important issues for educators and teachers. Let us first analyze the importance of stage theories for educators. Stage theories proposed by Jean Piaget and Erik Erikson state that development progresses through determined stages. While this perspective underscores the contributions of both biology and the environment, a greater emphasis is placed on a predetermined progression through a fixed developmental sequence. Many researchers and theorists dispute such a rigid step-like theory of development, emphasizing instead a more continuous, gradual process influenced equally by both brain maturation and environmental stimulation. Two important educational questions relevant to this issue are the extent to which children can be taught particular concepts or skills prior to entering a given developmental stage. The other issue is whether concepts learned in one domain are automatically transferred to other similar domains as a child reaches a new developmental stage. A related theme of stage theory of development centers on the existence of critical or sensitive periods in human development. A critical or sensitive period is defined as a time of growth during which an organism is maximally responsive to certain environmental or biological events. Critical periods emphasize the interaction of both nature and nurture, with environmental experiences, nurture, activating biologically programmed nature developmental changes, or conversely, biologically determined changes enabling an organism to assimilate certain environmental experiences. Let us look at language development for instance. Educators often wonder whether there is a critical or sensitive period during which children should learn a second language. Let us begin by a study of Erikson's stage theory of psychosocial development. Erikson's theory. Erikson believed that personality develops in a series of stages. In each stage, Erikson believed, people experience a conflict that serves as a turning point in development. In Erikson's view, these conflicts are centered on either developing a psychological quality or failing to develop that quality. During these times, the potential for personal growth is high, but so is the potential for failure. Trust versus mistrust. Birth to 18 months. During this stage, the infant is uncertain about the world in which he or she lives. To resolve these feelings of uncertainty, the infant looks towards the primary caregiver for stability and consistency of care. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. 18 months to 3 years. Between the ages of 1 and 3, children begin to assert their independence. Erikson says that this is the point at which the children develop a certain amount of independence or autonomy. Initiative versus guilt, 3 to 5 years. The child takes initiative which the parents will often try to stop in order to protect the child. The child will often overstep the mark in this forcefulness, and the danger is that the parents will tend to punish the child and restrict his initiatives too much. Industry, competence versus inferiority, 5 to 12 years. It is at this stage that the child's peer group will gain greater significance and will become a major source of the child's self-esteem. The child now feels the need to win approval by demonstrating specific competencies that are valued by society and begin to develop sense of pride in his or her accomplishments. Identity versus role confusion, 12 to 15 years. During this stage, the adolescent will re-examine his identity and try to find out exactly who he is. Erikson suggests that two identities are involved, the sexual and the occupational. According to B, what should happen at the time of this stage is a reintegrated sense of self, of one wants to do or be, and of one's appropriate sex role. During this stage, the body image of the adolescent changes. Intimacy versus isolation. Young adulthood. Occurring in young adulthood, ages 18 to 40, we begin to share more intimately with others. We explore relationships leading towards long-term commitments with someone other than a family member. Generativity versus stagnation, middle adulthood. During middle adulthood, ages 40 to 65, we established our careers, begin our own families, and develop a sense of being a part of the bigger picture. We give back to society through raising our children, work, and become involved in community activities and organizations. By failing to achieve these objectives, we become stagnant and feel unproductive. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of care. Ego integrity versus despair, old age. As we grow older, 65 years and above, and become senior citizens, we tend to slow down in our productivity and explore life as a retired person. It is during this time that we contemplate our accomplishments and are able to develop integrity if we see ourselves as leading a successful life. Erikson believed if we see our lives as unproductive, feel guilt about our pasts, or feel that we did not accomplish our life goals, we become dissatisfied with life and develop despair, often leading to depression and hopelessness. Success in this stage will lead to the virtue of wisdom. Piaget's theory. Let us now move on to another famous stage theory, Piaget's theory of cognitive development. In Piaget's stage theory, each stage represents a qualitatively different type of thinking. Transitions from one stage to another are generally fast, and the stages always follow the same sequence. The four stages of Piaget's theory of cognitive development are: Stage 1, the sensory motor stage. This occurs from birth to approximately 2 years of age. Infants progressively construct knowledge and understanding of the world by coordinating experiences such as vision and hearing with physical interaction with objects such as grasping, sucking and stepping. They progress from reflexive instinctual action at birth to the beginning of symbolic thought toward the end of this stage. The child utilizes innate behaviors to enhance this learning process such as sucking, looking, grasping, crying and listening. Object impermanence, mental representation of this stage, is when objects exist even when out of sight. At first, children will not attempt to search for an object which is hidden from their view. In their mind, the object simply ceases to exist as they cannot see it. Development of object permanence is one of the most important accomplishments. By the end of the sensory motor period, children develop a permanent sense of self and object. Stage 2, the pre-operational stage, occurs from 2 to 7 years of age. In this stage, a child can use one object to represent another. For instance, a child swinging their arms in a circular motion might represent the wheels of a train. This shows the relationships children can form between language, action and objects at this stage. A major characteristic of this stage is egocentrism. Children perceive the world in relation to themselves only. Another feature of this stage is conservation. Children struggle to understand the difference in quantity and measurements in different situations. Suppose a child is shown a short fat beaker full of water. When that water is transferred to a tall thin beaker, we would know that the quantity of water is identical, only the beaker has changed. However, a child in this stage will conclude there is more water in the tall beaker just because the level of water looks higher. Stage 3, the concrete operational stage, occurs from 7 to 11 years of age. This stage is characterized by the appropriate use of logic. Children learn to apply concepts to anything which cannot physically be manipulated or seen. Children continue to improve their conservation skills, and by the age of 11, they can conserve numbers, weight and volume. Simple maths such as addition, subtraction becomes much easier. Stage 4, the formal operational stage, occurs from age 11 onwards. Children at this stage acquire the ability to think hypothetically. Logical conclusions can be inferred from verbal information, and concrete physical objects are no longer necessary. When presented with a problem, children at this stage can consider solutions to the problem in a logical manner. Scientific reasoning is apparent in this stage. Kohlberg's theory. Students, we all agree that moral development is a major topic of interest in both psychology and education. One of the best known theories was developed by psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg, who modified and expanded upon Jean Piaget's work to form a theory that explained the development of moral reasoning. Kohlberg based his theory on research and interviews with groups of young children. A series of moral dilemmas were presented to these participants, and they were also interviewed to determine the reasoning behind their judgment of each scenario. Kohlberg was not interested so much in answer to the question of whether Heinz was wrong or right, but in the reasoning for each participant's decision. The responses were then classified into various stages of reasoning in his theory of moral development. Level 1, pre-conventional morality. Stage 1, obedience and punishment. The earliest stage of moral development is especially common in young children, but adults are also capable of expressing this type of reasoning. At this stage, children see rules as fixed and absolute. Obeying the rule is important because it is a means to avoiding punishment. Stage 2, individualism and exchange. At this stage of moral development, children account for individual points of view and judge actions based on how they serve individual needs. In the Heinz dilemma, children argued that the best course of action will be the choice that best served Heinz's needs. Reciprocity is possible at this point in moral development, but only if it serves one's own interests. Level 2, conventional morality. Stage 3, interpersonal relationships. Often referred to as the good boy, good girl orientation, this stage of moral development is focused on living up to social expectations and roles. There is an emphasis on conformity, being nice, and consideration of how choices influence relationships. Stage 4, maintaining social order. At this stage of moral development, people begin to consider society as a whole when making judgments. The focus is on maintaining law and order by following the rules, doing one's duty, and respecting authority. Level 3, post-conventional morality. Stage 5, social contract and individual rights. At this stage, people begin to account for the different values opinions and beliefs of other people. Rules of law are important for maintaining a society, but members of the society should agree upon these standards. Stage 6. Universal principles. Kohlberg's final level of moral reasoning is based upon universal ethical principles and abstract reasoning. At this stage, people follow these internalized principles of justice, even if they conflict with laws and rules. What are the advantages and disadvantages of stage theories? Students, we will now analyze each of the above theories separately and look into the advantages and disadvantages. Stage theories, especially those of Piaget, generated interest in child development and had an enormous impact on the future of education and developmental psychology, but they also had disadvantages. Erikson's 8 stages tended to focus on childhood rather than into consideration of cultural differences that may have affected the time during which an individual was in one particular stage. Potty training, for instance, begins at different ages depending on the culture. A popular criticism of Piaget's stage theory is that he underestimated the abilities of an infant. Studies have shown that infants have more of a capacity in memory and understanding of objects than he believed. While presented in a series of progressive stages, even Piaget believed that development does not always follow such a smooth and predictable path. In spite of the criticisms, the theory has had a considerable impact on our understanding of child development. Piaget's observation that kids actually think differently than adults helped bring in a new era of research on the mental development of children. Piaget's focus on qualitative development had an important impact on education. While Piaget did not specifically apply his theory in this way, many educational programs are now built upon the belief that children should be taught at the level for which they are developmentally prepared. In addition to this, a number of instructional strategies have been derived from Piaget's work. These strategies include providing a supportive environment, using social interactions and peer teaching, and helping children see the inconsistencies in their thinking. Much of the criticism of Piaget's work is in regard to his research methods. A major source of inspiration for the theory was Piaget's observations of his own 3 children. In addition to this, the other children in Piaget's small research sample were all from well-educated professionals of high socio-economic status. Because of this unrepresentative sample, it is difficult to generalize his findings to a larger population. Research has disputed Piaget's argument that all children will automatically move to the next stage of development as they mature. Some data suggests that environmental factors may play a role in the development of formal operations. Kohlberg's theories leaves many questions unanswered. Is justice the only aspect of moral reasoning we should consider? Critics have pointed out that Kohlberg's theory of moral development overemphasizes the concept of justice when making moral choices. Factors such as compassion, caring, and other interpersonal feelings may play an important part in moral reasoning. Kohlberg's theory is also set to overemphasize Western philosophy. Individualistic cultures emphasize personal rights, while collectivist cultures stress the importance of society and community. Eastern cultures like Indian and Chinese culture may have different moral outlooks that Kohlberg's theory does not account for. But all in all, Kohlberg's moral development theory has a positive effect on educational matters, especially the education of young adults and their sense of intellectual and moral development. Kohlberg's belief was that the development of moral thought would help individuals to develop a greater understanding of the norms of society. Let us compare Piaget and Erikson's stage theories. What types of children's behaviors demonstrate Piaget's pre-operational stage and his concrete operational stage? What is the relationship between these two stages identified by Piaget and Erikson's initiative versus guilt or industry versus inferiority stages? For Piaget, the pre-operational stage extends from age 2 to approximately ages 6 or 7. During this period, the child acquires motor skills and develops a sense of self. He or she is capable of imaginative thinking and playful activity. While he or she can focus on discrete information items, he or she is not capable of logical, discursive thought. The concrete operational stage extends from age 7 to approximately ages 11 or 12. During this period, the child becomes more capable of independently acquiring information about the world and thinking in terms of cause-effect relationships. The child also becomes less egocentric and more aware of the presence of others. Erikson theorized there were 8 stages of psychosocial development. Each had a syntonic or harmonious element and a dystonic or disruptive element. They reconciled in an ego quality or strength or a basic strength. Erikson's third stage of development is the play stage, which is approximately from age 3 to age 5. During this stage, the child develops fluid motor movement and coping skills. Rather than simply reacting, the child begins interacting purposefully with the external world. The conflict between initiative and guilt becomes the play age's dominant psychosocial crisis. Resolution of the antinomy produces the basic strength of purpose. Erikson's play age overlaps with Piaget's pre-operational stage. They are different characterizations of what appear to be essentially the same phenomena. From an age standpoint, many of the subjects observed appear to be in Erikson's earlier stage of toddler, which is characterized by autonomy versus shame and doubt, or even the infant stage, which is characterized by trust versus mistrust. Erikson's stages of development are elastic from a chronological standpoint. There is considerable overlap of behaviors within the different age categories. Erikson's terms for the various psychosocial crises associated with each stage of development seem arbitrary. While clearly there are instances of behavior that fit within each counterpart, there are many other behaviors that would be better described by use of some other criteria. This particularly is true when Erikson attempts to resolve each crisis in a neat synthesis, the basic strength. To illustrate this point, it seems highly unlikely that infants and children in Piaget's pre-operational stages and those in Erikson's play age are able to develop goals and intentions of the sort both Piaget and Erikson assume. Goals and intentions are complex cognitive phenomena, and the brain structure of subjects is insufficiently developed to support the level of activity both Piaget and Erikson hypothesize. For this reason, a model based on operant conditioning may be more explanatory. Operant conditioning as refined by Skinner envisions 4 types of reinforcement situations. 1. Positive reinforcement, which is a reward for increasing desirable behavior, causing it to go up. 2. Extinction, which is the removal of a previously given positive reinforcement, causing undesirable behavior to go down. Punishment, which is the administration of an aversive causing undesirable behavior to go down. And 4. Negative reinforcement, which is the removal of previously administered punishment causing the desired behavior to go up. We can conclude by saying stage theories helped to bring awareness among educators and societies about the different ways in which children learn and also the difficulties faced by children in learning. The practical implications of stage theories for parents and educators are: parents can use Piaget's theory when deciding how to support their child's growth. Teachers can also use Piaget's theory, for instance, when discussing whether the syllabus subjects are suitable for the level of students or not. Recent studies have shown that children in the same grade and of the same age perform differently on tasks measuring basic addition and subtraction fluency. Teachers who work with children in both the pre-operational and the concrete operational levels of cognitive development should adopt suitable academic expectations with regard to children's cognitive developmental abilities. The need for educators to individualize and adopt appropriate academic expectations appears to be most relevant for children at the first grade level. Kohlberg's stage theory of moral development can be used as a guide by educators and parents while teaching their children the appropriate values to live in harmony with others and with society. Kohlberg's theory will help them to formulate the right methodology when it comes to moral education, which will lead to great effectiveness and efficiency in moral education, with great gains to society as well as the individual. Thus, stage theories have helped educators to formulate the right methodology suitable for the age of students in cognitive, social and moral fields.